I'm not sure if you guys are aware of this, but it's 2024 now. It's a new year. And there's a law on YouTube that says I have to make a top 10 video. So let's do a top 10 toys of 2023. It's super original, right? Hey guys, I am Pixel Dan, and yes, I'm doing the thing. I'm gonna count down my favorite toys from the previous year. I don't think I've actually done this in a year or two, and mostly it's just because it's hard to arrange this stuff in the list format, but I decided to go ahead and jump back on that bandwagon and do it again because I know you guys want to know what my picks are so that you can tell me that I'm wrong. So yes, of course, I don't think this has to be said, but the picks in this video are all my personal favorite items from the previous year. And I know that's not going to stop most of you from telling me that I'm wrong or disagreeing with me, but that's okay. You know why that's okay? Because all comments are engagement. No, but seriously, it's okay because it's okay to disagree. And I am interested in hearing what your favorites are as well, so feel free to type that in the comment section down below. But I don't want to waste any more time. I do want to get to the list. I want to tell you that I tried to set some very loose ground rules here. Specifically, I tried really hard to make sure that I wasn't pulling too many figures from the same toy line. So I tried to limit myself to one item per toy line. Now, sometimes it might feel like that rule gets broken because multiple toy companies have the same license, but I did my best to kind of stick to it. And I really do feel like everything you're seeing on this list is genuinely among my favorite toys of the year. Arranging them in order was very difficult, and I'm also going to talk about a lot of other things while I'm talking about these. So grab yourself a snack, sit back, and here we go. Pixel Dan's top 10 favorite toys of 2023. I want to start this list with one of the biggest WTF releases of the year, and also something that I got right at the end of the year. So maybe that is why it's so fresh on my mind, except that this particular figure that I'm going to choose from this batch is also so Pixel Dan that it would be a shame not to include it. McFarlane Toys released a series of action figures from Batman and Robin. Yes, that Batman and Robin, the George Clooney Batman movie, the Batman movie that nobody likes, except we do all like to laugh at it. And here's the thing. These figures are super fun. I had no idea that this is something that I actually wanted, but it really feels like some injustices were fixed here because a lot of those vintage toys didn't really appear the way they did in the films. And now we've got some pretty screen accurate figures. I mean, the likenesses are pretty good on all of these, and yes, Batman and Robin have their bat nipples on their costumes, which is amazing. Poison Ivy probably looks the best as far as the paint goes, but the figure that I'm picking as my number 10 choice for the year is the Build-A-Figure in the line, Mr. Freeze. How could I not choose Arnie Freeze as one of my favorite figures? Arnie Freeze has been quoted by me for many years on this channel, and the fact that I now have a Mr. Freeze figure that has Arnie's likeness is pretty amazing. It's a pretty good likeness too. I will say the rest of the figure is certainly lacking a decent paint deco. I mean, it looks like he's just molded in silver plastic. There's some light blue painted on there. If this had a really decked out paint deco though, this would be even better because it is a good sculpt and the likeness is there. And I mean, guys, come on. What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age! There have been so many good pro wrestling toys. Seriously, if you are a wrestling fan and a collector, there is a smorgasbord of amazing stuff out there, and I've been scooping up bits and pieces from several different collections. I really like what Powertown Wrestling is doing. I'm looking forward to seeing what else they've got coming down the pipeline. I love things like Big Rubber Guys from the guys over at Major Wrestling Figure Podcast, bringing that old LJN rubber style back. And of course, you can't forget Major Bendy's, because I got my own action figure this year. I mean, would I really be shallow enough to pick myself as one of my top 10 figures? No, actually not. Because Mattel has also been doing some amazing stuff with their WWE license. WWE Superstars, the 5.5 inchers, are still doing some amazing, amazing figures and are among my favorite wrestling toys right now. But we got so many cool things. I mean, for God's sakes, I got a gobbledygooker in my collection. A gobbledygooker emerging from an egg, which means that I forever have a Thanksgiving decoration that I can put on my kitchen table for all the years going forward. But all those cool toys, and you know which one I'm choosing? Seth freaking Rollins. This figure is unbelievably cool. And I'll be perfectly honest, I ended up buying this figure because my son has been asking for a lot of wrestling figures this year. We got the Mattel Creations Cody Rhodes figure earlier this year as well, which is a great figure, but unfortunately gets outshone by this Seth Rollins. We had to have this so that my son could recreate their WrestleMania bout, and after getting this, man, I ended up fidgeting with this figure so much. I did a bunch of figure photography of it on my Instagram account. This is just an amazing action figure. The entrance attire, that gaudy robe with the fur, looks incredible. And to be honest, it's the entrance robe on the Cody Rhodes that actually bumps it down a spot for me, because I don't feel like that one really captures the look of Cody's robe. But this robe on Seth, mwah, it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. The paint deco on his tights, the expressive interchangeable heads, the hands so we can go, whoa, whoa. I had no idea that a Seth Rollins figure would be among my favorite figures of the year, but there he is. It's awesome. I love it when a toy that was supposed to come out in the 80s or the 90s gets a second chance at life. So I love a lot of those weirdo toy lines like Toxic Crusaders. And while I'm talking about Toxic Crusaders, I do want to send an honorable mention to that newest wave of Toxic Crusaders from Super 7, because these are some really well done figures, especially Junkyard there, who is probably one of the best Ultimates figures to come out of Super 7 this year. He is absolutely a leap forward in a line that has been plagued with some really loose joints. This guy feels perfect. And while these figures are good, it's a different Toxic Crusaders figure that is going to take the spot. My number 8th figure of the year is Paluto from Ish. Now, little bit of bias here because I did have a hand in helping them unveil this figure, but it was an amazing process because I got to speak with the original sculptor of this figure, Eddie Mosqueda. I got to see the original prototype that was supposed to come out as a figure back in the 90s, and that was all used for this new articulated vinyl figure, and it is so amazing. It's probably another one that's a bit weird to most of you, but to me, this is one of those things that I have wanted ever since I saw photos from the Toy Fair where he was originally shown off, and now he's finally in my collection. Man, toy collecting is so cool. Okay, so Horsemen Design has done some really amazing stuff. And this is one of those things where, like, technically these are separate toy lines, but I'm kind of grouping everything from Four Horsemen together because they continued the amazing Mythic Legions line, but they also introduced their brand new Cosmic Legions line this year. And oh my goodness, the figures I got from this line are absolutely mind-blowing. The sculpts, the sheer size and scale, the heft of these figures, And Sphexian especially became a standout for me. And it's something about those colors that are used. That paint job is killer because it shimmers and sort of shifts in color from blue to green in the light. I love the insect-like look. This right here almost took the number 7 spot on my list until we got to Christmas time, because that's when the Horsemen released their latest figure in their Figura Obscura line, which is Jacob Marley from A Christmas Carol. Oh my God. I had no idea that this was ever a figure that I needed. I feel like that's something I'm saying a lot, but that's exactly why these types of figures are making my personal list. This figure is incredible, and I love every Christmas-themed figure the Horsemen have already done in this line. I got their Father Christmas, I got their Krampus a few years ago, and now this Jacob Marley is amazing. The paint deco is so cool with that ghostly blue that fades into total translucent down to the feet. The real metal chains that are attached to him, holding on to the books and the safe, which, by the way, the safe does open, and it did house a secret accessory that I am going to keep secret because I don't want to spoil it, and I know that's like an unspoken rule among the Four Horsemen fans. But look, everything about this figure is incredible. He instantly went out with my Christmas display this year, and it's one of my favorite figures of the year. It's just one of those things where, man, it's just this iconic character from a story that we all know and love, and they turned it into such a beautiful action figure. A lot of big toys this year. A lot of big toys, a lot of expensive toys this year, and a lot of freaking Ninja Turtles toys this year. And apparently this was the war of the turtle vans this year. So, the Neca turtle van is really cool. I did a review on it. I really like it. It's based on the animated series look. Really good stuff. But the Super 7 Party Wagon is pretty incredible all on its own. And I almost hate to say it's like that one versus this one, because just like their toy lines, they're doing separate things, and I love that they both exist. They are scratching two different itches, with Super 7's looking like the vintage toy line, and NECA's looking like the original animated series, and both of these vans have a reason to exist. The Super 7 Party Wagon is taking my number 6 spot on the list. This is just a good toy, man. First of all, it's massive. This thing is gigantic. Like, I can't believe how big of a toy this thing is. And it feels so super solid. One thing I will say is that this thing feels like a toy. I know a lot of us are just putting these on our shelves, but this thing feels good. Also, it's really expensive, and I would definitely mark that as one of the downsides, being a $500 toy. Oof, I don't know why that's the number so many toys are these days. So very expensive, but what I will say is that the paint deco is really good here. There are a lot of deco hits on this thing. You'll notice that on the outside there is some shading across the top, so it's not just molded green plastic. There's a bit of this metallic pearlized shine to the outside, so it's not just yellow plastic. The inside is fully painted, including some really cool details like duct tape on the ripped leather seats. There are lots of accessories that come with it. This is just a fun toy, and I was pretty blown away when I pulled this out of the box. I haven't done a video just on this yet, but I'm going to. I really like this toy. I'm really glad that I've got it in my collection. I'm really glad I have both of these vans in my collection. And honestly, I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Did you buy both? Which do you prefer? Feel free to let me know. This one made my list. Now don't worry, because NECA is still on the list, but maybe not for what you think it's on here for. At least not here in the number 5 spot. One of the lines that has come from NECA Toys that has turned into one of my favorite to collect is their Dungeons and Dragons line. Man, these are incredible. So I got Warduke and Grimsword towards the end of last year, and while I never really featured them in a video, I fell in love with them instantly. I thought they were so well done. I am incredibly nostalgic for that vintage LJN toy line, and it probably helps that it's been one of the lines I've been actively collecting this year. It's a toy line that you've seen me pick up a lot of pieces for if you've been following my Toy Hunt series. But they released 2 more figures this year, and they are both incredible, but I'm actually going to give the number 5 slot to Strongheart. This is just such a cool looking figure through and through. I mean, look at the details in his armor, that sculpted chainmail in there, the silver colors, all of the details that adorn the actual figure itself. It's amazing when you look at this compared to the vintage figure from LJN, because it really does look exactly like the figure you remember, but souped up, plussed up, modernized. It is so perfectly done. This line is exciting, and if you're sleeping on this, I would highly suggest picking one up and checking it out, especially if you have any nostalgia at all for that vintage toy line. I hope this line continues. I hope you guys give me a hook horror in this line. Seriously, bring me more Dungeons & Dragons figures. I love these. So Marvel Legends is always a line that I cherry pick from, and some of the figures that I pick up are always among some of my favorite toys to pick up, because even though I'm not a hardcore Marvel collector, Marvel is still so near and dear to me. It's still such a big part of my journey as a toy fan and toy collector. The original Toy Biz stuff is still some of my favorite all-time toys. So of course Marvel Legends is always going to appeal to me. And I actually picked up several this year that were very close to making this list. First of all, Spider-Punk from the Spider-Verse toy line. I do believe this might have snuck into the stores last year, but I didn't get him until this year. And of course, the movie came out this year. Hobby was one of my favorite characters from the movie, and this figure was just so much fun to fiddle with and pose. I really love him. But aside from that, I also picked up the Secret Wars Doctor Doom because I am a sucker for nostalgia. I love this particular outfit. I love that original Mattel action figure, so this is a really fun one. And one that really got close to making the list was the X-Men 97 Wolverine. Oh my gosh, this to me, best Wolverine figure that has ever come from Marvel Legends. Definitely the best claws. I love this costume. I really want to see this same body with the pinless joints and these amazing claws utilized for a brown costume Wolverine, but I love this figure. But I am awarding the number 4 slot to another nostalgia one. Another one that I was so excited as soon as we saw it announced at San Diego Comic-Con. Yes, my friends, it is Crystar. Wow. I can't believe we've got a Crystar figure in this line. This is another one that I've got a lot of nostalgia for because I love the original Remco toy line. I've been collecting that toy line quite a bit over the past year or so. I also have a stack of the original comics. I love crystal type characters and crystals in general, so I've always been drawn to this guy. This figure is just one of those things that makes me so happy. Like, I can't believe that he exists. Hasbro, you have to give us more figures like this. I need Moltar. I would be happy with any more figures from Crystar, but I also want more of these other Marvel weirdos. Rom the Space Knight needs to be coming. But seriously, Crystar, so happy to have him. Whew, we've made it this far and I haven't even talked about Masters of the Universe yet. Are you guys shaking in your boots? Are you worried I'm not going to put anything on the list? Well, here we go. We've made it to the Masters of the Universe part of the video. So here's the thing. Mattel has continued to pump out so many toys for Masters. And while Origins has been my favorite of those lines to collect, I will say, while we got a lot of Origins figures this year, none of those individually rise high enough to make my top 10. What got close was Snake Mountain, because I love getting more playsets, and Snake Mountain is a ton of fun. But let me tell you, Masterverse has really kicked into high gear this year as far as I'm concerned, specifically with the new Eternia figures. New Eternia is something really magical in the sense that they are doing something brand new while still doing something that feels familiar at the same time. And let me tell you, that is no easy feat. This is something that a lot of toy companies and a lot of toy lines have failed to magically capture. Look, Masters of the Universe Classics, while it was a decade ago at this point, doesn't feel that old. And a lot of people still consider those like the best versions of a lot of these characters when you're talking about the vintage line brought into collector space. But new Eternia feels like it's trying to be its own thing, and in my opinion, it's succeeding. There are so many figures that I could choose from this to add to the list, but there's one specifically that I was completely enamored with, and I was not expecting it. It's Buzz-Off. Buzz-Off is the number 3 figure on my top 10. I love this one. Everything from his cool translucent redesigned mask, his new armor piece that can be removed, the articulation on his wings. This is a fun figure to fiddle around with and pose and photograph, and he feels new and different while still feeling like Buzz-Off, which again is a magical space that is really hard to capture. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and go as far as to say that this is my favorite Buzz-Off figure ever. I love this figure, and I don't know if he's on your top list, but he's definitely a solid number 3 on mine. Coming in at number 2, we're swinging back to Neca Toys, but it's a different license, a different toy line. Of course, it's involving the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Neca has done it all this year. Man, they've been pumping out so many figures, from the animated stuff to Mirage to Last Ronin to the Turtle Van that we already talked about, and even the sewer diorama. So much Ninja Turtle stuff. But for me, the best Turtles item that they produced was the Jim Lawson 4-pack inspired by the Mirage comics. Oh, baby. These still, to me, are the best Turtles on the market. I love these 4 figures so incredibly much. They feel so good. The articulation functions really well on these, but most importantly, the sculpt is exactly what I want to see in my Ninja Turtles. Look, I love all eras of the Turtles. And like I said before, I'm so happy that we have so many options out there. So many companies are doing Turtles, but they're all doing different things. And I'm glad that we have our options to choose our favorites. But there's something so special about those original Mirage comics. And looking at these figures right here, man, those just look like the Ninja Turtles. I love this. Absolutely a solid number 2 on my top 10 of 2023. So that brings me to the number 1 spot. Any guesses? Does anybody know what it is? Put it in the comments right now. What do you think it's going to be? What do you think my number 1 toy of the year is? Well, here we go. Let's get into it. Mondo has been making some of the coolest collectible Masters of the Universe toys this year. And it's one of those things where, like, man, when I look at this compared to everything else on my list, I almost wondered if this should even count, because this is a high-end collectible. These are very expensive toys. They almost feel like they're on a different level. But man, this is just about the toys that made me the happiest this year. And this is definitely my favorite toy that I got all year. Number 1 on my list is Mondo's 1/6 scale BattleCat. Holy moly. This is just an amazing toy, figure, collectible, whatever you want to call it. The details on this thing are mind-blowing. The colors, the paint, all of those little details worked into the saddle piece. Plus, there are so many options for displaying this thing. You've got that standard BattleCat helmet, which looks fierce and ferocious, but it's real easy to pop the head off. And in its place, you can swap on an alternate helmeted head, which has a bit of a 2000X flair to it. Or you don't want a helmet at all? You could put this ferocious unmasked cat head on there, which definitely pays homage to the vintage packaging where we had some unhelmeted BattleCats like that. or you can even remove the armor from the forearms, you can remove the saddle, you can have this as your Cringer, or you can pop on this more Filmation accurate head to give him the cowardly Cringer look. It's so amazing, and all of these head sculpts are so good. The displayability is unreal. The articulation is tight. It functions well. He stands good. You can fit the He-Man on his back. It looks good with He-Man standing next to him. I will say, another very expensive toy at $500. And Mondo has been pumping these things out this year. Mondo, you gotta slow down. We can't afford all these amazing toys that we just keep buying because they're so amazing. Slow down, pump the brakes a little bit. We love them, but it's too much. It's too much. But Mondo's BattleCat is just one of those amazing toys. And I always said that, like, I would be in trouble if we ever got a 1/6 scale Masters of the Universe line, because I've never collected that scale before. While everybody was out going gaga over hot toys, I always admired them from afar. They were never my thing. But I knew if Motu got in that scale and it was done well, I would be in trouble. And here I am, in trouble, but I'm loving these toys so much. I mean, this thing is the size of an actual house cat. It's unbelievable, but it makes me so happy. The original BattleCat figure from the vintage Masters of the Universe line is one of my all-time favorite toys, and getting this as like a modern day, updated, super detailed version, it just makes me so happy. It makes me so incredibly happy. Look, and then they went and gave us Panther too. They gave us both of these in the same year. This is $1,000 I'm holding right here. Come on, Mondo! So there it is. That is Pixel Dan's 10 favorite toys of the year. Like I said, that was not an easy list to put together, and I talked about a lot of things throughout this video. So many cool toys, so much money, so many big items. But now's your chance. Now is your chance. You tell me, what were your favorites? Do any of your favorites match my favorites? Do you think we're at the end of this giant expensive toy thing? We've got to be getting close to it, right? It's kind of crazy how many of those we've had this year. But seriously, I want to hear from you guys. Feel free to leave me a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you think of this. And stay tuned, because I want to do a few more of these list type videos this month, because I mentioned that there were so many cool toys this year. There were a lot of really cool toys from independent toy companies, and I kind of feel like they need like their own video. So we're going to be talking about that, but we're going to do some other stuff as well. Maybe a worst list? I don't know. Maybe. You'll never know unless you hit the subscribe button and you follow my channel. Right? Happy New Year. Until next time, my friends.